a lot of the time we come up with reasons to use AI. A lot of people have this thought that AI will just fix everything, whereas it will not, and it is not suitable for all use cases. So, first of all is, what are you trying to solve? Then second, is it actually going to be suitable for AI? Something that you're doing numerous times a day. Is it a data heavy task? Does it have lots of volume that you're processing? Or is it taking lots of time? Is it causing frustration? Those tend to be the four main points that if you have those, if they are involved in the AI implementation, you're then going to be able to show success of that project as well.
Welcome to the AI Grapple podcast. My name is Kate vanderVoort, founder and CEO of Social Mediology and the AI Success Lab. In today's episode, I'm joined by Katelin O'Shea, a self-described AI enthusiast, founder of AI That Works, and team project manager at Dropbox Global Support. Katelin brings a refreshing real-world approach to using AI. No jargon, no hype, just structured, step-by-step experimentation that anyone can learn from. She started her journey using Copy.ai to write complex grant proposals, and now she's helping drive enterprise-level AI implementation at Dropbox while continuing to build her own practical tools and use cases. In this episode, we talk about everything from appealing a parking fine with ChatGPT to designing frameworks that support the integration of AI across business. Katelin shares how she empowers teams through education and confidence building, why small businesses have a unique advantage with AI right now, and how to avoid the shiny object syndrome by anchoring everything in process and purpose. Let's dive right in. Welcome, Katelin. It is great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Kate. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, you and I first connected on LinkedIn, and I'm really looking forward to talking about how that happened and some of the amazing things that I'm seeing you share on LinkedIn at the moment. But maybe we could back up a little bit and just get started with a bit of an introduction. So you describe yourself as an everyday AI enthusiast, and you've got a really practical, down-to-earth approach to AI, which I love. So can you share how you first got curious about AI and maybe what your journey looks like pre-AI and into AI implementation?
Definitely, yeah. So I started using AI I think it was late 2021, if I remember correctly. So it was with a tool called Copy.ai. Now, main reason I was brought into starting to play with AI was at that time I was working for a company that supported startups in applying for grant funding. So we used to write grant proposals on behalf of those startups to achieve European funding in research and development. So for anyone that's not aware, some of these proposals can be extremely lengthy and are quite complex to put together. And one of these startups was actually utilizing AI within their startup, and we're talking about the capabilities of AI and how amazing it was. And I'd never heard about it at that point. So I went off and started playing around to see what I could actually do with it and discovered Copy.ai. And from there, we became best friends because it was saving me so much time right from the beginning. And kind of that was just a light bulb moment for me where I was just like, okay, this is going to change all of our business processes. I was operations director at that point, so I had a lot of influence as to how we actually did different things within the business, and we started heavily using this to create the grant proposals on behalf of our clients that we were working with. So it was an amazing thing to discover. And then from there, I ended up experimenting with AI in lots of different ways, just outside of in daily sort of tasks. What could I use AI for to save a little bit of frustration here, make things run a little bit faster there? Some have been successful, some have been absolute failures. One of the things that I did back when Midjourney and all the art generation came up first, I was like, okay, I'm always very interested in passive income. So it was starting up my own AI art generation print-on-demand store. So I was able to, use AI in lots of different elements of creating that e-commerce store. And when people bought, the art was created automatically, printed, and then money deposited in my account. However, the profit margins are tiny. So it didn't really even pay for the time that was dedicated to it at that point. But it was a fun experiment all the same. And then from there, I have continued to experiment in other ways, which has then led me to where I am currently at this point in time, which is working for Dropbox. So I'm actually a project manager of the AI team within Global Support. So I get to see what an AI implementation looks like at a large enterprise level as well. And that has really just been I've only ended up in that situation because I speak on LinkedIn about my interests in AI and my practical use cases, as you say, as how I'm using it in my everyday life, or I'm seeing other people use it in their businesses. And that's led me to that role. So it's all very exciting, really. I'm really enjoying this whole journey I've gone on in the last 4 or 5 years. It's brilliant.
Yeah, that's amazing. What a great journey. And also to be in such a large company where you get to utilize all those tools as well, because I think you've got a really nice balance between that, using it outside in your own life and then using it professionally as well. I'm always interested because those of us who use tools like Jasper.ai and Copy.ai, that was my first experience really of knowing that I was using AI. As we all know, AI has been around for a long time and it's been used on us or in the platforms that we used for a long time. When you had your first chat GPT moment, did you still feel like, wow, this is actually something completely different? Was it still a wow moment for you?
I think it's changed over time. It's just as the technology is evolving, my opinion is somewhat divided between, oh my God, this is amazing, and then there is the part of concern as well as to how is this going to affect, a lot of people in administrative roles with a lot of repetitive tasks that could be easily automated. So that's always this concern portion of my headspace when it comes to AI. However, I do remain optimistic that this is going to be, yes, it will change everything as we know it in the world. At least I do believe that it will have an effect on so many different pieces of the world that we don't even think about just yet, because we just cannot see where this is going to go. However, I think humans are innately good, and this is an amazing tool that can be used to change lives for such a positive way as well. Yes, okay, there will be the negatives, but I think we have no choice. The train has left the station, and we need to ensure that we utilize it in the best way possible. And there's so many amazing things that you can do with AI. So, yeah.
That's so interesting that you say humans are innately good, because I think it's my fear about humans not always being innately good that brings up the fear around AI. It's not the technology itself, it's how that's going to be used by humans. But one of the things I love so much about what you share on LinkedIn and some of the conversations we've had there are those real practical use cases. So I remember reading about the time where you used AI as a legal assistant to help appeal a parking ticket. Can you talk to us about how you tackled that task, what tools you use, what that experience taught you, I guess, about AI's role in everyday problem solving?
Of course, yeah. As we all know, the appeals process for, appealing a fine is not something that any of us enjoy writing out. And this was one of the things that kind of popped up. I got a fine. I wanted to dispute that fine because I had been given it in an illegitimate way that I obviously didn't agree with. But as you know, writing up a legal letter, can be a lengthy process. So instead, I turned to ChatGPT at that point. And I asked ChatGPT to act as a solicitor that specialised in civil matters to put together a response to the case that I had with this parking fine. So what I did just easily, I think I used Dictate. Now you can use advanced voice mode. I used Dictate at that point. I literally just talked through why I felt this was wrong, what had happened, when it occurred, yada, yada, yada. Just like, there's no special technical way that was addressed here. It was just telling it what I saw and why I thought the things I did. And I asked it in order to put that together into a response that I could send to the council in a legal format. And just like that, this is going back probably over a year and a half ago now, so I'm sure the quality has got even better at this point. But yeah, I sent in the appeal. Wouldn't you know it, it actually went on for a couple of backwards and forwards, but ChatGPT was at my side the whole time, and in the end it got cancelled. So very happy with that result.
It probably was before people picked up words like delve and the ever-evolving landscape of parking tickets.
Yes. To be fair, it actually was really good. I think it actually, it didn't do any of that. And the way that it put it actually together, the format was really, really, really great. I think for those particular use cases, I'd highly suggest that people give that stuff a try because, for instance, even my mum, I have my mum over in Australia. I actually live in Ireland, and she struggles with, some of these sort of like bills and this and that. And I put together, these legal letters on her behalf. Like, I don't have the time to be writing these things either. Whereas she tells me what happened, I tell ChatGPT, it writes me a response, I send it off, done. Whereas that could have taken me an hour or something in the past. Whereas it doesn't. So it helps her, relieves my frustration. It's great.
It's one of my favorite ways to use AI is really just to do a brain dump. And definitely. I just love how it can pull together what I've said in a way that's just a lot more coherent than I might be feeling or producing at the time. And it's a great way to use AI.
Definitely.
So on that, we were talking offline just before about language and there's this funny dynamic at the moment where people say, I can spot AI a mile off, and I can spot AI usage a mile off when people are just putting in a simple prompt, cutting and pasting what comes out. It's filled with all of those, long dashes and the ever evolving landscapes and the delving into, and, there's a lot of language. And you had some interesting perspectives or questions, I guess, around, is AI influencing us with the kind of language that it's starting to use? Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, weirdly, just in our chat there. So navigating, I can't figure out whether I use that word before I started using AI or not. Like, I have a sailing background, so navigating would be a word that I would use. However, I don't know if certain words are coming into my vocabulary just because I'm reading them online by people that are obviously using AI to generate content, which is including mystify, demystify, all these kind of silly little words that, I think probably will end up becoming part of people's vocabulary more than they used to be, just because it's existing in the content that's being produced, which is quite strange.
I often laugh. Sorry, in my social media days, I used to laugh and say that I saw the world in Twitter posts. So in, what was it, 90 characters or less. I used to see the world in short, sharp social media posts. Now I see the world in AI prompts. So
yeah. Definitely. You can spot it a mile off the AI replies and the fully generated AI. It's one of those things that if you I'm a believer in using AI as a collaborator, as an assistant. You should never be using it even when it comes to AI agents. At this point in time, I don't think we're at a point where a human should not be involved, unless it's for a very low risk general use case where, there's no approvals, there's no risk involved if it's not completely accurate, those sorts of things, because AI is not at that level. And I'm yet to see an AI that can be 100% efficient. So, yeah, it's one of those things that you can avoid it. However,
well, I mean, it's still such early days, and I think AI agents are operating at about 20 to 30% accuracy. So there's no way that we're in any way, shape, or form ready to really rely on that technology. But that is such early days. I was listening to a podcast this morning, someone from IBM, and he was saying the buck will always have to stop with a human. You know, from a legal perspective, it would be very unlikely that we will end up in a world where AI can make autonomous decisions that it is responsible for. So the buck's always going to have to stop with a human. And, you know, a lot of the work we do is around really that human-centered. How do we use it as that collaborative partner to do more, to be more, to increase quality, serve more people, but to do that with human in the loop, which is critical at the moment. I'm really interested, especially given your professional experience in using AI around things like customer support. One of the things that's coming up for me a lot at the moment in conversation, in podcast interviews, in working with larger companies who have customer support functionality within their business, is this concept of authenticity and disclosure. And so I did a podcast interview with somebody recently whose view was, well, if someone doesn't know that it's AI, does it really matter that it's AI? And should we be disclosing? And it was interesting what that brought up for me, because as a consumer, I don't ever like to be duped. I don't like to feel like I've had one pulled over on me. And I just get this sense that if companies are going to be using technology, which is amazing technology, you know, the Sesame demos that are out at the moment with Maya and is it Miles, the male version of that, they're phenomenal, those conversations that you can have with AI, the nuances, even things like Notebook LM with those audio overviews, you know, they sound really natural, they sound really human. What's your view on whether companies should be disclosing the use of AI in customer service or customer interactions?
I think they should, most definitely. I don't think it should be something that's hidden that is going to obviously fuel distrust, and companies should be using it in, yes, authentic ways where they're actually going to reveal that it is AI, because it's not going to be 100% efficient either. It's going to make them look even worse if they don't actually put their hand in the air and say, we are using AI to automate. It's going to become general practice that AI will be involved when it comes to customer service. So yes, I would be a firm believer that, you know, when you, like, I've made an AI avatar of myself. I posted it up there. Yes, the possibilities for content production with an AI avatar is absolutely amazing. However, I don't think anyone should be using AI avatars and not saying that it is an AI avatar. It's misleading. And I think we do need to be very careful with those areas of how AI is going to dictate things in the future that people want to be able to trust. And if they feel like they're being misled everywhere, which could happen, it's not such a good path to be going down.
Yeah, I think it'll be an interesting transition that we're going to go through over the next few years, because ultimately there will be a time where AI is just a part of everything. And it's, you know, we don't remember a time where we didn't have AI everything. And, you know, my kids who are 9 and 11, they probably won't ever remember a time when AI wasn't really present in their lives. But I think you're right. You know, we're definitely going to have a bit of a bumpy ride until then. And it's funny, I had this very uncanny experience. Well, one, testing the Sesame platform was a bit uncanny last week, because we were preparing for a cyclone here in Brisbane, which is not the usual MO for Brisbane. We don't normally get cyclones. There's certainly never been one in my lifetime. And I had a conversation with Maya, the Sesame AI voice, about preparing for a cyclone. And she at one point called it Hurricane Eric. And I said, are you not listening to me? This is a cyclone and it's called Alfred. And she goes, oh, my bad. It does say on my internet dating profile that I'm not good with names. And I'm like, right. So that's your response when I'm preparing for a cyclone. I thought, not great on the empathy.
And that brings you to another thing, is that it's never going to have the emotional intelligence of a human.
Yeah, and I think it's getting much better at mimicking that emotional intelligence, but it's not something, and realistically, I mean, I see a lot of these prompts and I share them in our community of getting ChatGPT or one of the other platforms to analyze you and look for your blind spots and look for or share areas where you might, have room for growth. And it is uncanny, I guess is the word I'll use again, just how deep some of that analysis goes. But then we've also had conversations about when you actually look at some of those responses across multiple people, some of it is actually just diving deep into what are quite normal human fears about connection, about relevance. And so it's interesting how AI in those situations can dive deep and really pinpoint what feels like, it feels like there's a connection that's happening there with deep understanding. And yet maybe all it's doing is really analysing humans' deepest fears and reflecting that back to us.
100%. And I think that's only something that you start to see when you have used AI for long enough to see that. I think even when you talk about these demos and these new AI tools that pop up, I think you probably will agree with me that a lot of them that you do, if you end up trying them and implementing them actually within your own business processes or in your own everyday life, they don't tend to work anywhere near as good as the demo model that you saw on the website. And, like you're saying there, it appears like it's giving you these very deep insights about, human body language and so on. However, it ends up being quite surface level, or it's mimicking, and it is only essentially built on the data that we give it, and that's its weak point. So, yes, maybe that might evolve and become a whole huge different thing in the future, considering that all of us now are using AI and sharing vast amounts of data with it on a daily basis. That who knows where that will go in the future. But for now, where we are is, yes, I agree that a lot of it can be very surface level.
Well, yeah, and on the one hand, it's surface level, but on the other hand, it's actually really deep. So I'll share the prompt with you afterwards because I'd be interested in reflection. But there was this one particular prompt that I did recently where what came out from ChatGPT was literally more than 4 or 5 therapy or business coaching sessions would have gotten for me.
Wow.
I'm not understating that. It went deep to the heart of what drives me in my business, what some of my patterns of behavior are in my business, why I might have structured my business the way that I have, why I might be having some of the challenges that I've been having. And it went really deep. And I literally felt like I'd been heard, seen, validated, and I had a pathway forward on how I could address some of that. So I will share that with you afterwards. However, what happened, and I can share that in the show notes as well if other people want to run that prompt, what happened was I shared that into my Facebook community and I just went, wow, I'm absolutely mind blown at what this one simple prompt has actually uncovered for me. And then when other people did it, it was really interesting to then see some of the common themes that were coming up. And I actually have a psychologist in my community who said, some of these things are actually just deep human insecurities or fears or patterns of behavior. And so when you start to see some of the similarities, doesn't mean it wasn't deep and profound and, really valuable for me, but just maybe it wasn't all about me, Kate, the individual. Maybe it was more about us, humanity.
Yeah. And I guess essentially as well, if you were to be going as a person to a therapist learn, all their strategies from, obviously years at school. However, I'm sure some of the therapy sessions that they give maybe are repetitive, but we'll never know because of obviously the privileges between a therapist and their client, so like that's probably what it's coming from too, is it's all built on data. Yeah.
So one of the reasons why I reached out to you to be on the podcast is you just have such a process-driven approach to using AI. I am not that way. I jump in, I play, I test, I try, I go, oh, that looks like it could work. And in the end, it's actually AI that often now helps me work out the process based on what it is that I've done. So I literally reverse engineer a lot of things now, just because that's how my brain works. I am really good at talking and saying things and expressing, analyzing or looking at something and expressing it in a way that resonates with people. If I can now do that with AI, I can then reverse engineer processes and frameworks and things that help achieve that outcome. So for me, I literally use it in the opposite way that I see you using it, which is why I was really excited to have this conversation. So you have a real structured framework. So, things like audits and pilot testing. And when we're in a world just filled with shiny object syndrome and people jumping in and just playing, can you share a bit about how you approach AI and some of the frameworks that people can use to really make the most of AI in their professional life in particular?
Yeah, definitely. I think the main reason why I tend to approach AI in that way is, I think, essentially just from my own professional background. So like obviously working in operations and then as a project manager, we have frameworks that we follow on a daily basis, and we also need to be able to track a project at a very granular level and also at a high level, and having, set stages within a project is obviously an essential way of tracking things. So for me, I guess it's just how my mind tended to work when I started playing with it. I'm like, how can I replicate what I did again and have someone else understand that? So I guess when you should look at implementing AI and going about that in the best way possible, one of the biggest things that I see people doing, and you kind of touched on it there, is people see a new AI tool come on and they go, I want to use that. However, that's where you're, especially in business, when you're going to be paying large sums for these tools, if you don't already have an objective for that tool, the projects, it will most likely fail. Like a lot of that money is going to be wasted. And especially if you're implementing it in a business, you're dealing with people, you're dealing with all those challenges. And if a project is to go bad, it may be a long time before that business will be ready to take on another project, spending that money, investing in AI. So it's always best to have your problem first. Understanding why you're actually wanting to implement AI. And as part of that, there's a process to be able to understand, is it right for AI? Because a lot of the time we come up with reasons to use AI. A lot of people have this thought that AI will just fix everything, whereas it will not. And it is not suitable for all use cases, definitely not at this point. So, first of all is, what are you trying to solve? Then second, is it actually going to be suitable for AI? So what I tend to focus on is it a repetitive task? Is it something that you're doing numerous times a day? Is it a data heavy task? Does it have lots of volume that you're processing? Or is it taking lots of time? Is it causing frustration? Those tend to be the four main points that if you have those, if they are involved in the AI implementation, you're then going to be able to show success of that project as well. Because if it's repetitive, it means that you're using time, and time equals money. If it's data heavy, any kind of data analysis takes a lot of time. And if it is also frustrating, those sort of things, has error that could be caused by humans, that's also going to generally be a time-consuming task. Now, they are some of the things that AI is best at. So following those sorts of steps first will ensure that down the track, when you're actually in this AI implementation, you're going to be hopefully successful. At this stage, it's still out for out for debate.
Yeah, that's why I'm so passionate at the moment about businesses doing the culture change and the education piece now, because I think it's almost too early to tell as these platforms come out. It's quite a big ask to say to a business, make sure you've got the objective in mind when it's quite new technology, that new use cases and testing. And so, yes, and I know you're also very passionate about education. And I think right now it's about getting people familiar with what is generative AI? How did we get to where we are? What does it mean for business? And what are those use cases where AI can really come to the fore? Because if your team or the culture of the business is ready for that, then as the platforms evolve, you're in a better place to evaluate the actual tech. And I know you talk a lot about that. I think you say that you dedicate 30% of implementation time to team training and confidence building, which is that piece that I'm talking about. What have you found are some of the most effective ways to bring non-technical team members along the way when it comes to AI?
Yeah, so in the process where I was talking about figuring out, is AI going to be suitable, that's where you're going to start. Then before you start, one of the best things to be doing is obviously creating transparency as to what you're actually going to be implementing and how that's going to possibly have any kind of change for your staff. If it's going to be brought in a process where it's going to possibly have any kind of change for staff, that should be addressed proactively. Because generally what it means, people are anxious because they feel like their value might be stripped from the company. They feel like their jobs could be taken altogether. And it's getting on board, especially for businesses, getting on board proactively to sit down, to have those discussions, to address those concerns head on. Ask your staff, what are they concerned about? And a lot of the time what I find is that people that are mostly anxious about it either don't understand the possibilities that they could, further gain skills, which then could lead them down other career paths. Like, I think at this point in time, we should all be trying to be as adaptable as we can in implementing AI and learning how we can use AI so that we can be strong in the future. So addressing that and showing that if staff are to get involved with AI, they're going to have more time to focus on the strategic and the creative. Now, I know saying that sounds all a little bit wishy-washy. However, when you do think about it, you say to someone, what do they enjoy about their job? Most people are not going to say that they enjoy doing that data entry task, or, all those boring, mundane pieces. Most people would, you're lucky if you can come up with a few things that you enjoy doing in your general everyday job. At least for most people, I feel that would be the case. However, addressing that in training and addressing those anxieties is going to help melt that away so that hopefully you can avoid what we're seeing a lot of the time, which is, as you say, you bring in a new technology to a company pays thousands for this technology, they implement it successfully, the staff won't use it. It's going nowhere. It's done. All that money is wasted. So that's why I say that addressing people is one of the main success criteria for an AI implementation, and it has to be done. It's going to be time consuming. It's going to be hard, definitely, because these are not skills that any business is going to learn to communicate overnight. They may have a couple of projects that will go bad before they get it right, but you have to start learning those skills now, and you have to start addressing those challenging conversations now with your staff so that people can grow and evolve. And as you say as well, that may not be addressing where the career path's going once they start using AI. But it may be just also, like, this is one of the things that I've done in the past, and it's addressing what AI is good at and what AI is not good at. Because a lot of people that are very anxious about AI think that AI is going to do everything. But as we've discussed already, like, AI is very unreliable. So there is going to be so many pieces of a business puzzle that will not be able to be replaced by AI, and addressing those concerns and training people from a beginner's level as to what AI actually is so they can get that understanding, a lot of the time that then, cancels out a lot of anxiety for other people. Now, you're going to always have a select group of people, as you say, that will always be against AI and never want to do anything with it. And that's fine. That will always be a challenge for businesses to get around. However, I think by addressing things in that way, you're going to be able to get past that people challenge in your projects more positively, definitely.
Yeah, and I always say, because there are a lot of us out there to help with that education and culture piece, but I always say, we are actually all on this journey together, and we need to make sure that everybody comes along for that ride, which is a bit of a utopian way of looking at it. But and some people will lose their jobs. There is no question about that, or they may require retraining, or they're I think it's interesting that the future of work is evolving as we speak, and AI is causing us to redefine everything about the future of work at the moment. We're still very early days in that conversation. One of the other things that you mentioned in your framework is around data. So one of the biggest hurdles with AI implementation is messy data, inconsistent data, not really knowing what data even exists in a lot of cases. And one of the biggest benefits of AI is unlocking data and being able to unlock that across an organization and remove some of these silos that exist in businesses and companies. So how do you personally approach that kind of data cleanup and preparation process, especially if you are not particularly a tech or engineering or traditional data type person?
Definitely, yeah. So from my own personal perspective, I would do a lot of work using custom GPTs that I've built to perform particular tasks. Now, when you talk about cleaning data for those, following best practices, you use the likes of Perplexity or ChatGPT or Cloud to explain to you what are the best practices for the particular type of process that you're wanting to run through that custom GPT. If it's generally one of these LLMs, running it in markdown format is probably going to be one of the things that you want to include. Make sure that it's going to be in the right format so that AI can actually read the data that's being shared with it. It's much easier on an individual level to ensure that your data is clean and, going to be useful for the LLM. However, when you get to business, that's where it starts to get a little bit more tricky. I've kind of talked about this a little bit, and I think that small businesses have the edge now when it comes to utilizing AI within their processes, and that's mainly down to the fact that some small businesses don't even collect data at this point. And if they are going to need to collect data in order to implement AI, they can do it from the beginning in the right way. However, when you look at businesses that are either large or have been around for a number of decades, the data that they have, as you say, will have inconsistencies, it will have duplications, it will have all the things that are going to mean that garbage in, garbage out, your AI implementation is going to fail if that data is not clean. So what I would suggest, and it's picking a pilot, so a small task or process that you're going to implement AI within, and it's creating a subset of data that is cleaned in the way, the data that is needed for that pilot or that process to have AI implemented within is clean and ready for that pilot. Trying to look across the whole organization and say, okay, we need to clean all of our data because we're implementing AI across the business, that will be an ultimate blocker for you ever getting started with AI. So that's the reason why, and essentially AI works on a task basis anyway. It's never, maybe with AI agents and teams of agents and all these sorts of things, they're going to be running companies at some point, and maybe that is the edge that startups do have. However, when it comes to, coming in and running these large organizations, you need to start with a small process, subset of data, make sure that data is totally clean, and then you'll be in a much better stance to be able to get good results from that AI implementation.
Yeah, it's one of the things I love most about AI with my hyper personalization and content marketing kind of background is that ability to do things like sentiment analysis. And it's really great at the qualitative data. The general LLMs, as we know, they are large language models. They're not necessarily great at some of the quantitative data. And I'm seeing some companies trying to use these large language models to clean up quantitative data, which just then becomes a mess. I think that also speaks to we're about to see a massive proliferation of platforms and software that does, deep use case kind of tasks. So I'm seeing more and more now that are really good at the numerical data analysis and working with numbers as opposed to language. So I think we're right on the cusp of a lot of really exciting things happening there. But one of the things, and I'm sure you love it from a customer service perspective, where AI is really coming to the fore is listening to real-time conversations and analyzing those in real time and providing solutions and documenting those solutions in CRMs and training sales teams, customer service teams in real time. I mean, that's mind-blowing when you look at what has gone into doing that historically. Is that some of the stuff that you're working on?
Yeah, we have touched on agent assist. So that is, it's not doing in real time like you're saying. However, it is working off tickets, taking that information and then using that information to support agents when they're actually, giving support to the customers as they're calling in.
Human agents, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
We're going to have to start saying human agents and AI agents.
Yes, you're right. But yeah, it is amazing, and it's using data like I've talked about this before. It's like talking to your data, like you're able to talk to data. I know that sounds completely weird, but essentially that's what these solutions are doing as well. They're utilizing all of our data and they're putting it out there in real time, supporting someone doing their task. Which is then obviously going to have an effect on our average handling time and our customer service satisfaction scores, all these sorts of things. Customers get better service, agents have better job satisfaction. It's a win-win, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. We could go in so many different directions here, but I am aware that it is very late in Ireland, early here in Australia. As we start to wrap up, Katelin, what are you... I often ask the question as you stand on the hill and look out to the future, what do you see coming down the line? But what are you most excited about with AI, or what is it that you're most looking forward to in the next, dare I say 3 to 5 years, let's say 6 to 12 months?
Yeah. Well, it's a huge question. I've never felt so excited about anything apart from AI. I think as someone that is... I guess maybe I am a creative person, but I've never been good at painting. I've never been good at drawing. I've never been that good at any of the creative arts, you could say. However, when I came across AI, it was like, I have the tools I need to put whatever ideas I come up with into real life with so much ease. And, as the technology is growing, it's gone from writing better to... Now, if I come up with an idea, I can create a custom GPT, which does exactly what I wanted to do. This is a funny one, but something that I'm sure a lot of people resonate with is I have Susie, my recipe planner. So I used to hate writing out my shopping lists. So what I did is I uploaded all of my favorite recipes and they've been transcribed using OCR, and the LLM spits out at my request my meal plans and my recipes and my shopping list, and it's just done. Hey presto, I didn't have to think about it at all. Those are the silly little things that, just put a smile on your face using AI. But then what really excites me is being able to create products, just, to be able to code without coding on these like Lovable.dev and Cursor and Replit, to be able to turn your ideas into an MVP. And you don't have that blocker any longer, which so many people didn't pursue their ideas prior because it would cost, 10, 20, 30K to actually even prove an idea. Whereas now you can do that in a few days. You can put it out on the likes of social media to see if there's interest, which I have seen people do, and they've already got customers and they haven't, obviously created the real product, and then invest in obviously getting a developer on board to turn it into a fully fledged product. However, that is just so exciting to know. That really, just makes my brainwaves go crazy. I'm like, oh, I could do this. Oh, I could do that. It's just the ideas. It's the innovator in me that gets really excited. So and for everyone else, it's going to shape so much change is going to come in the world because of these tools being so accessible. The democratization, I don't know if that's a word that's come out of AI or not, but yeah, but it's
it's used a lot with AI. It was around before AI, but
yeah, it's the accessibility for all walks of life across people to be able to access these tools, and where is that going to go? It's going to be amazing. Yeah, it's really, really cool.
And snap on that creativity. I am exactly the same. You put me in front of a blank canvas and I'm blank, or I'm too scared to, even have a go. But I found that with social media though as well, that it just gave me new ways to create and to express myself. And AI has just taken that to a whole new level. And it's funny you say with the recipes, my partner and I were on a road trip last year and we went to this random little, you'll know where I'm talking about, a random little Vietnamese restaurant in Armidale. And it was the best chicken pho. My partner loves pho. It was the best chicken pho he'd ever had. And we've tried to find similar here in Brisbane. We've gone to all these different Vietnamese restaurants and, it's now this legendary meal that we're trying to find someone else that will cook it. So I got desperate a couple of weeks ago and just said to Chatty, I want to make the best Vietnamese pho that I can. I've got 4 hours and a slow cooker. Tell me what to do. Because, pho is known for being cooked over days. Anyway, gave me this recipe and it had random ingredients that I was just like, you are taking the mickey, Chatty. This is going to be terrible. But I thought, what, I got nothing to lose. Can't do anything else. I'm just going to give it a go. And he said it was the best pho he's ever had. And so now I'm trying to replicate the original that I've cooked. And so, historically, you could never do that. You'd have to take whatever the top rated one is on Google and hope for the best. And now it can adapt and change to timeframes and to what utensils you've got in the kitchen. And so exciting times. I'm equally as enthusiastic about all of those things.
I know.
Caitlin, it's been so lovely speaking with you today. It's lovely to connect with an Australian over the other side of the world, and I feel like we've got some great things that we may collaborate on in the future. So it's been really lovely to connect with you. Thanks for sharing your story and your wisdom with us.
Thank you, Kate. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to the AI Grapple. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and colleagues and subscribe on your favourite podcast platform. We would love to hear your thoughts, so reach out with any questions or comments about the show. Until next time, keep grappling with AI and stay curious.